But I wanted to talk to you, Joellyn, about closing costs.
Sure.
It's one of those things where consumers, I think, are always confused. And I wanted to just tackle a few of the closing cost items that sometimes buyers and sellers have questions about. We could probably do a whole show about this because there's so many different aspects of it. But I just wanted to kind of explain some basics for people. And I think title insurance is one of those things that home sellers and sometimes home buyers are always curious about. And figured I'd give you a chance to say, you know what, let's dummy it down for the listeners out there. What is title insurance?
Sure. Well, title insurance, in a nutshell, is an insurance policy that gives the buyer of the property peace of mind that the biggest investment usually that they're about to purchase is free of any liens that could attach to that property and any potential issues that may come up that might have been missed in the past chain of title. So really it guarantees that they're buying a good piece of real estate.
So they buy a house, 6 months later somebody raises their hand and says, hey, the prior owner of this house owes me money.
Exactly.
That's where title insurance steps in. So, and again, I think a lot of people think that it's optional. And it can be, I believe, optional with a cash purchase, which I think it's silly for the cost of it to not take people up on title insurance.
Correct.
But with a loan, I think it's pretty much, the bank's going to require it. You're not going to be able to get a loan without title insurance.
Correct, because in addition, there's two types of policies that we issue. One policy that insures the owner, and then in financing, like you said, the second type of policy is a loan policy that insures the bank that there's no liens, on the property that they're about to put an interest on. And with the financing, like you said, it's not optional.
Right. And, another one that we get a lot, doc stamps on the deed. That people, what is this doc? They think it's something that they can negotiate. So explain to the folks listening, what are doc stamps on the deed?
Sure. Doc stamps is basically a tax that the state of Florida collects, and it's a standard rate of, I want to say 70 cents per thousand based on the sales price of the property.
So it's less than 1%. It's like it's 0.7% basically.
Correct. And it's a tax, pretty much. Goes to the state of Florida. It's not something that the title company collects, and it's not something that's negotiable.
No, it's not. And it's interesting. I always relate it to people, and my thought process behind explaining it is that it's probably one of the reasons why we don't have a state income tax. It's one of the additional revenue, and the red light cameras, which I'm sure they're making great money from. But those are reasons why we don't have a state income tax. So the consumer always wants to know, hey, what is this? And that's one of them. What about so some other closing costs? Obviously, on the lender side, you're gonna those can sometimes be negotiable. Things like the appraisal fee, the underwriting fee, the origination fee. Those are not promulgated fees. They depend on what that lender charges, and those are going to be fees that a buyer is going to see, or a seller will notice if the seller's paying the closing costs.
Correct.
But we're going to continue this conversation with Joella, and we'll certainly take your questions about closing costs. So if you have questions, you can call us toll free, 855-970-WFLA. That's actually the phone number that rings to my real estate office, and we aren't on air, so we can answer that live here in the studio. If you call it, again, that's 855-970-WFLA. You can also call the station numbers 990-9352 and 461-9352. We're going to continue the conversation. We're going to talk about new real estate online searches and how some of these search providers are going to now map nearby sex offenders with real estate properties. So we're going to talk about that after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show.